Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to explain whether the market is already starting to crash. You may have seen the pre-market this morning for AMC and it is looking very, very red, but so is the wider market itself. I also want to give you a bit of an update on Evergrande and talk about what's going on in China. So stay tuned and let's make some money. But before I dive into the video, I just wanted to quickly announce that I've now partnered with BlockFi. BlockFi is a cryptocurrency investing platform where you can obviously invest in cryptocurrency. You can also get a BlockFi credit card that pays you cash back in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You can also just deposit cash on the platform and earn up to 8% interest per year. And you can also get crypto-backed loans as well. So guys, be sure to check out the link down in the description below to earn up to $250 worth of Bitcoin when you make your first deposit. And now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, you may have seen this morning that cryptocurrency and the wider market is very, very red. And therefore, while today may not be the best day to buy cryptocurrency, I do think today is the best day to get prepared to take advantage of the massive dip. Open an account with BlockFi and deposit cash. That way you can start earning that 8% and you can be absolutely ready to take advantage of the big dip. We can also see that the pre-market for the S&P 500 is looking just as disastrous. On Friday, we closed below this line of support, and today, on Monday, in the pre-market, we are down significantly, already down 1.46%. In terms of Evergrande, we can see the exact same thing. Today, Evergrande is down 10.24%, and at one point during the day, they were down nearly 20%. And again, if we look at the Hang Seng Index out in China, today they're down nearly 7% in one singular day. Again, over the last 5 days, it's just been constant red out in China. So yes, even though the pre-market for AMC is not looking too great, down 6%, it's not just AMC, it's the wider market, not only in China as well, but it's already starting to bleed over into the US and into cryptocurrency as well. So let's talk about why Evergrande is down so heavily and why this is already having an impact on the market. Evergrande started repaying investors with discounted properties over the weekend. This, I think, is a terrible idea and is going to crash the Chinese property market, but let's read on. China Evergrande Group kicked off a process on Saturday to repay investors in its overdue interest products with discounted properties. Investors who opt for discounted real estate in lieu of cash can start contacting wealth managers for more details, Evergrande's wealth division said in a post on its WeChat account. More than 70,000 people bought the products, including many Evergrande employees, Bloomberg reported earlier, citing an executive of Evergrande's wealth division. About 40 billion yuan or $6.2 billion of the products are now due. In an effort to steer investors away from cash repayments, the company is pushing steep discounts on property assets. Investors can invest in residential housing units at a 28% discount, offices at a 46% discount, and stores and parking units at a 52% discount. Now, firstly, I think this is really tricky because investors are going to have to calculate how much of an actual discount they're really getting. Yes, okay, investors can invest in residential housing at a 28% discount, therefore they're getting a 28% benefit from the current market price of that residential housing compared to the price they're paying, and that's effectively what's going to pay off that loan interest that's due. But obviously that residential housing current market price potentially isn't the true value, or maybe not the value that it's going to be in 2 weeks' time. Maybe in 2 weeks' time, the Chinese property market is going to crash by 20%, and therefore the investors are only getting an 8% discount. So therefore it's going to be tricky for the investors to actually take up this offer because they don't really know how much of a discount they're going to be getting, and they don't really want to sell themselves short. They could be getting, say, $300 million worth of interest repayments, and yes, they may be getting a $300 million discount on properties at the moment, but in 2 weeks' time, that could all of a sudden turn to only a $100 million discount, which is a massive difference. Now, on top of that, obviously, Evergrande are now pushing as much real estate as they physically can out into the market at fire sale prices, therefore basically forcibly crashing the Chinese real estate market. So I think this is a massive problem for those two reasons. A, they're just creating fire sales, so basically causing the Chinese property market crash, but also the investors potentially going to get a lot less than they bargained for, and therefore may not even take up this offer. But the fear, uncertainty and doubt is already going to be caused by Evergrande, and therefore the market is going to experience the impact, and the investors might not even take up this offer. For the cash option, investors can choose to be repaid 10% of their principal and interest every quarter, with full repayment in 2.5 years, Bloomberg reported earlier. Investors in the products can also opt for payment discounts on residential units they've already purchased, according to the revised plan unveiled on Monday. Again, this also sounds like a bit of a nightmare because investors are only getting 10% of the principal that they should have been paid and interest every quarter, with full repayment supposedly in 2.5 years if Evergrande doesn't magically go bankrupt, which it will. On top of that, we've also got a video from ABC News Australia talking about the collapse of Evergrande and how they've already started to demolish buildings in China.
In China's southwest, these apartment blocks are going down. 15 towers, unfinished for 7 years. The developer bankrupt. It's not an isolated case. These towers were recently brought down in Shanghai after 20 years of stalled construction. Across China, the building boom that powered the economic miracle is running out of steam, and it's the little guys who are suffering. For the past week, suppliers, investors and some employees have descended on Shenzhen at the headquarters of property giant Evergrande. All of them want their money back. This supplier from northern China has $6 million owed to her.
We have no hope. We may as well be dead. There's nothing we can do.
This woman from Shanghai is $2 million out of pocket.
They've offered to give us property or commercial real estate as collateral, but these are junk properties they can't sell, so we won't be able to sell them either.
Over the years, Chinese state banks kept lending to Evergrande despite its mounting debt because it seemed too big to fail. But the days of China promoting growth no matter the costs are over.
I think the Chinese government, what they're doing is to make sure that the market is really sustainable, so that is important.
Many experts think there won't be a bailout for Evergrande, just a slow, painful restructure to pay back whatever it can to those owed and to send a message to other Chinese companies to get their house in order. Bill Birtles, ABC News.
Now there's two things there that I found really interesting. The first is the scale at which the demolition is already starting to happen. There was 15, 20, maybe even 30 big high-rise apartment buildings that have just been demolished. That goes to show just how behind Evergrande were and how they've been in a failing position for a long time. The second interesting thing that I picked up is that not only are Evergrande offering these deep discounts on the properties to those investors, but they're offering them deep discounts on junk properties that are potentially only half finished and likely won't even be completed. And therefore it's very unlikely that those investors will take up that deal. Now we've also had some comments from UBS. 3 weeks ago we did not see any imminent risk of a credit event occurring for Evergrande. Since then, there have been a number of setbacks which have led us to believe that a credit event seems unavoidable. Now that seems like typical banks not admitting there's a problem when there absolutely is a problem, and now all of a sudden, because it's in the news, the banks all think it's a problem. Now we also know that UBS and a lot of other banks like HSBC and also institutions like BlackRock and Vanguard have massive exposure to Evergrande. We also know that the Hang Seng Property Index has just fallen 5.4% to its lowest value or its lowest rate since 2016. And on top of that, it seems Morgan Stanley are all of a sudden predicting a 20% correction in the S&P 500. The ICE scenario is starting to look more likely and could result in a more destructive outcome. Now it seems like a lot of major banks are expecting this credit event and the default of Evergrande to spill over into US markets. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing today, with the S&P 500 already dropping 1.5% in the pre-market, and AMC and all other stocks for that matter being hit quite badly already. We think the mid-cycle transition will end with the rolling correction finally hitting the S&P 500. We've laid out two near-term risk paths that could lead to this outcome. FIRE, which is the Fed beginning to remove monetary accommodation in response to an overheating economy, and ICE, earnings revisions and higher frequency macro data points to decelerate amid demand pull forward, supply chain issues, and margin pressure. This week we dive deeper into both of these paths and point to accelerating risks on both the policy and growth fronts. The typical mid-cycle fire outcome would lead to a modest and healthy 10% correction in the S&P 500. However, the ICE scenario is starting to look more likely and could result in a more destructive outcome, as in a 20% plus correction. Now on top of this, don't forget it's not just Evergrande that's in this position. Evergrande are not unique, they are just typical. There's also Sunac and also Country Garden and many other large Chinese property developers that are also in a very, very similar position. It wouldn't surprise me if those buildings that were being demolished weren't just Evergrande buildings, but were also other buildings from other large property developers. And there's also going to be tons and tons of US banks that are not just exposed to Evergrande, but are also exposed to these other property developers, and therefore I wouldn't be surprised if the losses start mounting significantly. Don't forget, this is going to be a domino effect in China, just the same way that we're going to see a domino effect of the funds shorting AMC. Now I also want to talk about what this is going to mean for AMC. I do still think that AMC short squeeze play is absolutely still on, and I do think that AMC is going to recover from this pre-market dip. Maybe not today, but over the next few weeks as banks start feeling the pressure of Evergrande in China. As the asset reserves at those banks start dwindling, it's only going to put more and more pressure on those over-leveraged short positions. And when their asset positions fall too much and they don't then meet the margin requirements, they are going to have to start covering those short positions and decreasing their leverage to ensure that they meet those margin requirements. And at the end of the day, that does mean that they are going to have to cover their AMC short positions. They are also going to have to sell off some of their long positions, or at least exchange those long positions with the DTCC for cash, and use that cash to cover their short positions to reduce down their margin and their leverage. Now, while I don't think today is the best day to buy cryptocurrency, I do think today is the best day to be organised and open accounts with BlockFi and make deposits, ready to take advantage of the cryptocurrency dip. When you do make a deposit, at least you're going to be earning up to 8% a year on your cash, and you can also take advantage of any big cryptocurrency dips. Guys, be sure to let me know down in the comments below what you think about Evergrande, and whether you think the market crash is already starting to be felt over in the US markets. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my others. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.